Welcome to the Honolulu Ethics Commission. I, Chair Shelton Javon. I don't believe we have any commissioners attending remotely. Right.
Not today.
So for the record, I'd like to take a roll call of all commissioners who are present to establish the quorum. Commissioner Adler,
Here.
Commissioner Fukunaga,
Here.
Commissioner Martell,
Here.
and me. Go ahead, quorum. Now that we have 4 commissioners present, we therefore have quorum and the meeting is called to order. It is now 11:31. And if there are any members of the public present who'd like to identify themselves, please let me know. But if you want to address something, I'm going to ask that you address it during the particular agenda item, but not when it is another agenda, just for expediency and efficiency. Can all of you hear me? Who raised your hand? Can you hear me? Great.
Okay.
Good. First of all, are there any announcements? Going to the chair's report. Any announcements? There is a State House Resolution number 65 that was included in your packet, and I'd like to have the executive director describe what this resolution means.
Actually, we had in contact with the Office of Information Practices, and they were requesting that we provide additional information about items A1A, the State House Resolution, as well as Commissioner Martell's resolution. So we're going to put these back on the agenda with additional information at the next meeting. Take it up at that time.
Very good. We would like to specifically welcome new Commissioner Linda Martell. And I wanted to, was just confirmed recently by the City Council. Commissioner Martell has an esteemed, illustrious career as an attorney. And basically, to put it short, before I allow her a chance to speak, for 6 years, 6 years, gee, what did we say, 16 years?
16.
Yeah.
Purdue.
Wow, you were a per diem judge for the family court, all the way to the Kapolei side. Willing to become a per diem judge and bear the traffic on Kapolei. What to do, but that's tremendous. And for that, you were project coordinator with the Judicial Pretrial Systems, and you were, more importantly, you were Deputy Attorney General for the Department of the Attorney General's Office for 6 years. Commissioner Martell, would you like to say something or give us a more description of the particular things that you'd like to talk about?
I think
This is your opportunity.
I think you covered it pretty well. Was per diem judge, started in downtown before the court moved to Kapolei for 16 years, and I worked every week, well, 3, sometimes more days a week. And very interesting, never dull, always interesting family court. Before that, I was a deputy AG. I represented the Child Support Enforcement Agency and Adult Protective Services of DHS. Before that, I was in private practice, and before I went to law school at the University of Hawaii Richardson School of Law, I was a speech pathologist for Children's Hospital for 5 years and DOE for 5 years. So I've seen many different, I've worn many different hats, let's put it that way. So my friend Peter Adler, who I've known quite a while.
100 years.
Before I knew Peter, when I was doing my master's project at Hawaii School for Deaf and Blind, I worked with his wife, who is a deaf educator, which I didn't even put the two together until after I met. Anyway, sounds like it will be interesting, and I look forward to it. Thank you.
It will be interesting.
My family part never dull.
And yes, you have a Master's of Science, as you mentioned. Ken has a doctorate in psychology. So,
You have a PhD in life.
Possible. Okay. Now, what I'd like to do is ask for the approval of the minutes for the last meeting of May 21, 2025. I know that Ken, Commissioner Fidalgo attended, most of us attended, and Commissioner Martelli at that time were, you attended, but I was against, said, but you may have been familiar with that. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Record note to the other motion. Commissioner Adler, do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Fidalgo. Is there any discussion? Is there any opposition? Okay, then it passes by unanimous vote. The minutes of May 21, 2025 are approved. Now we'd like to go to the executive director's report. And it's the executive director and the council.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. First, we have the staffing work report summaries. That is in your meeting material. See what staff has been up to. Statistical information in slide number 7 relates to the request for advice. For our new commissioners, that's when officers and employees of the city, even members of the public, can call in, request information or request for advice on various standards of conduct issues. These topics can be anything from conflicts of interest to gifts, to financial disclosures, to ethics training, any number of things that that come to mind, or they, in some cases, they want guidance ahead of making a decision themselves. We received in April 28 such requests. 34 requests were closed. We had been asked at the last meeting, I believe, to reflect how many were closed. You'll see that these two numbers are not the same numbers, right? There could have been leftovers from prior months that got closed in the subsequent month. And so the 28 and the 34 will not match. And then you'll see in May, 22 such requests and 21 requests were closed. Going on to slide 8, some more statistics on investigations this time.
Excuse me,
Yes.
Executive Director, I wanted to ask, are there any other RFPs still outstanding?
Not at this point. They do come in daily. And so the number can change on a daily basis, but at the rate I know the attorneys are working, we are hoping to report as one of our accomplishments that we have closed all of the fiscal year 25 requests by the end of June. So, yeah, so that's what we're shooting towards, but you know, sometimes requests come in on dribs and drabs, and other times it's a tidal wave of requests. So we'll see if we can't, you know, close them all out before the end of the fiscal year, but that's what we hope to do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm on slide 8 now, having to do with investigations. There were 19 active investigations in April and 20 in May. I think at the last meeting, we were asked about aging reports. We have played around with our database. At present, we can't pull such reports. What we can do, but it would have to be a manual check, is perhaps come up with the number of cases. Each case as it comes in is numbered with a fiscal year. So if something comes in today, it would be 24-507 or something. We could categorize them by the number perhaps in each fiscal year that might be still open, but that would be about the closest thing that we could pull to an aging report at this time. So again, it would be a manual tabulation. It may take some resources. As we head into the end of the fiscal year, we're pretty busy with other statistical information. So maybe sometime in the fall, we might be able to turn our attention. I don't know if that, I think it was Commissioner Adler who had that request.
No, it's fine. I just think it's another one of those points, you know, to monitoring, or somebody else asked.
Okay.
If we can get to it, but I understand how hard it is.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's not automatic.
We unfortunately don't have that, you know, push a button in the
I know.
database and it pulls the information. So it is going to be a little bit of a manual search.
Does anybody have a question? Because I have a question. To the executive director, wanted to understand the statistics. In April, you had active investigations 19, and in May, you had 20 investigations. They're not new investigations, you just carried over one, or are they new?
They're not new. They are carryover.
Okay.
At any given time, we take a point in time and a point in time and add up.
Okay.
Or, the database reflects how many are active at that time.
Thank you.
Jen, do you have any intuitive sense of how long an investigation, an average investigation runs? I'm thinking time.
It really depends.
I know,
Um,
I can't imagine it's an easy one.
Right.
Some are big and some are small.
We tend to tell folks that, just because you have 5 investigations doesn't mean that you're late. It means that
Right.
you don't know what's involved, like you said. Some investigations take a lot more work. Others are one and done and they're out the door.
Right.
It just depends upon how big it is, how many folks are involved. Sometimes we receive more than one, concern form on the same matter. And then we might bundle those together if they're all different people but talking about the same issue. It really depends. Moving on to the budget on slide 9. Bill 22 this year was the budget bill. It went through 3rd reading on June 4th. On June 9th, it was transmitted to the mayor for his review and signature, and he has until June 24th to return the bill for enactment. We did not have any issues going through our budget cycle. So if nothing else, we saw a lot of other agencies, many of which have vacancies, some of the big agencies. Council was looking at some of those pots of money in the vacancies as ways to balance the budget. We fortunately were not in that category, so we had a little smoother sail through the budget this year. Slide 10, ethics training program. I'm going to turn this over to Kirsten Aoyagi, our training specialist.
Good morning, everyone. To get started, the all city employee ethics training, I think we just got a certificate today in the mail. It got lost, so we got it today. We've noticed that there's some glitches in the Honolulu training system where it doesn't count as completed for some employees, so we are still working with that to try and kind of clear that whole thing up. Moving on to slide 11, the board and commission member training. It is still slowly going up. It's now at 140. That number, we have received some in-person completions and their records don't get really updated on Honolulu. It still says that they have like a pending evaluation, even though they did the evaluation. So this is the number that we know of so far of those who we know completed the training.
If I may interject a little bit, we're still in the process of working with administration on getting commissioners, board members and commissioners through the door on training. We're going to do one final push to the board liaisons. Each board has a liaison that is kind of their person that we communicate with. And we're going to ask them to push one last time to see if we can't get any more completions before the end of the fiscal year on June 30th. Thereafter, the commission has not had an appetite to enforce on training. And that's something that, we're trying to work with administration and council as much as possible to get everybody through the door. We will be compiling a list of those who have not completed training and working with administration to see if we can encourage them to finish. The deadline was, for this last biennium, the deadline was December 31, 2024. So we are 6 months out. And so that's kind of where the problem comes, is that we are getting ready with our next biennium training, as well as the Equal Opportunity Office, because they have the 2 anti-bias and prevention of sexual harassment trainings. If we launch our new training, and there are still those that have not completed the last biennium's training, we think that's going to cause even more confusion, and it's going to be even more difficult to get folks through the door on finishing. So we're trying to make this last push to get everybody through the path for this last biennium, which ended in December, and then look towards the end of the next biennium, which won't be until the end of 2026.
Any good carrots or sticks?
Well, we're hoping that administration, they are the appointing authority, can help us with this. We have been in constant contact with Chief of Staff, whom I know all of you have met and know. And he is doing his very best to help with this effort to.
Shame board.
I'm sorry?
Shame. We can figure out a delicate way to do that.
Yeah, I mean, our board and commission members, we thank them so much for volunteering their time to be on these very important city boards, and I don't know that that would be the best way to do it. Yes.
Is the training tailored to each commission's goal or
Not to
area?
each one.
Or is it just generic?
It's generic training. In fact, I think, on the eve of, I think our training specialist is on the eve of delivering new board and commission training. We had been using very dated training that actually was something that was developed by the federal government, because there wasn't anything that was
It's good.
board specific to the city. So training specialist Aliyaji has developed a brand new training. She does videography as well as photography, and has put together a new training for board and commission members. We will be inviting you to take that training as soon as we release it, which we hope will be soon, maybe by the end of this month or the next
Is
month.
this in-person training?
You can do it online through the Honolulu.
Video.
So to follow up on what Peter said about shame, the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services
Yes.
has a wall of shame.
Oh,
Does every organization found to be in violation of HIPAA?
Actually,
And it's,
Kirsten almost put me on there,
a
so.
wall of shame.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it has a real consequence, because if you go on the wall of shame, that means you've signed a compliance agreement.
mm,
And if you violate the compliance agreement, it's an automatic fine.
mm. I see. Well, we try to remind board and commission members that, the things that they have signed up to do by becoming a board or commission member is to do your financial disclosure, your confidential financial disclosure, as well as ethics training and equal opportunity office training every 2 years. But again, we so appreciate our board and commission members who volunteer their time to provide these critical city services. So I'm not sure how else to go about encouraging completion. We are trying, but we're gonna keep at it until we get there.
We can't do anything like a wall of shame. Pretty sure that they haven't done it.
Yeah.
And check and double check, because Medicare can do it with, CMS can do it with impunity. We can't necessarily, so, but I have a question, Kristen, with respect to the 214 number. Does that in any way include people whose terms have ended in 2024, or does that include current 2025?
So what's actually interesting is when compiling the list to send to each liaison, we noticed that there were names that aren't on the current list. So these numbers, the 214 number could possibly be lower than what it actually is. We just don't know. There's no way to track who gets termed out or resigns or quits. So this is like the best number that we can go with. It's up to I believe the liaison and the ASO, Administrative Services Officer, to remove them from the Honolulu system. And we've noticed that there are some issues with removing them as well. So the 214 number, I believe, is a little bit lower than that.
Because it includes some commissioners who termed out in 2024, who didn't do it because it was due in 2024.
Yes.
So what Kirsten says is true, the administrative services officer for each department will have to work with the liaison for the board. There is a document that goes into the system that indicates that you are a volunteer and that then that name, once it's entered into the system, is pulled into the Honolulu U system, which is managed by the Department of Human Resources. So there's a few toggle agencies and systems here, and we think that that's possibly what's creating some of the difficulty. In the past, we have never had trouble with getting our board and commission members trained. And so this is the first year that we're seeing this kind of, 60 or 70 members potentially in non-compliance. It's the first time we've ever had this problem.
It's the liaison person able to identify how many of their board or commission members have not completed the ethics training.
I believe,
Can you give us an estimate to get us a better number?
yeah, I believe the liaison can work with their administrative service officer to figure that number out. It's just, I think there might be some confusion on between those two groups, who does what.
So we just want a number for now.
Yeah.
That's all we want.
So
Yeah.
we are,
There.
next week, Kirsten is going to be sending out, or this, maybe at the end of this week, they're going to be sending out an email to each of the liaisons with the list as best as she can pull it from the Honolulu system, and have them look at the names on the list to determine whether or not, for one, if the board member is still on that board, and two, whether or not their members have finished training. And so with any luck, we will get a better number, but again, I think it's because the system is toggled through the administrative services officer and information technology, and then over to human resources, and then into the HUN system. So there's a number of places where there could be a breakdown. And unfortunately, we don't have control over any of those processes because those aren't toggled.
So we have the same problem with disclosures, chasing people down, right?
We did in the past, but we have not in this
No, we
last,
didn't.
yeah, we still have to chase, but
Yeah, we have to figure out systems to go.
yeah, I mean, clearly, if the financial disclosures come in at 100% compliance, we don't know, the only difference between going into the HNL.info system for FinD, for financial disclosures, the only difference is to then toggle over to the Honolulu U system, which is human resources. So,
I wanted to say for Ken and Linda, my sense is that the training efforts that we've done have made a difference. And the outreach that has gone on, whether it's pop-ups or whatever they are, I think it makes the presence more visible and that helps speed up some of the requirements.
right, we've, in the last 2 years, we have seen a plateau and kind of a drop off of the number of complaints that come in a given year.
Yeah.
We haven't yet finished putting together all of the statistical information for this year, but from what I can tell, at least what the legal clerks can pull information from the database, the number is similarly low. So it looks like there was kind of a spike over the prior years, then there was a plummet when we started to really kind of ramp up our newsletters, our outreach, our other video kinds of trainings, and now it's on a plateau at a much lower rate. Again, very difficult to determine whether there's a cause and effect, but it seems to have made a difference, at least in the number of concerns filed.
Yeah.
So that's,
How long will the online training take?
It is a 2-year biennium. So we're actually currently in the calendar year 2025 to 2026 biennium. But our training will not be released until January 2026. So that'll actually give you about a year to do the training.
But we could do it soon.
I'm not entirely sure because we have to work with Department of Human Resources to get that curriculum on Honolulu U, the training platform. I think they're working with Equal Opportunity Office to get theirs up, but ours is not going to be ready until January 2026.
And then the training itself, how long is that online, the online?
I want to say it'll probably take about 45 minutes to an hour to complete.
We gotta do something at the AGs like that, don't you?
Yes, and then they instituted this, I don't know if it's a biannual or something similar like that.
I don't know, it would pop up on our email and you had to do it.
And this tracking is hard because when I was at the AGs, they instituted that biannual system or, X number of years. And then people took it all and then they lost all the data.
Oh.
And then they made us take it again.
Oh, because they lost the data?
They lost data of the log of
remember
who
that.
did it and then the tracking. So this tracking is difficult.
Does anybody have any more questions? Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on to slide 12, just really quickly, we have a pop-up event coming up July 23rd, so that'll be next month. And I will let you know how that goes.
So for our new commissioners, we've been trying to get out there more. Put a name and a face to our staff and the commission. Invite people to ask a question or at least let them know that we're out there so that they can ask questions, whether via email or the phone. We tried to hit all of the major areas where there are city employees and officers, right? Honolulu Hale obviously has some budget folks, has all of city council and their staff. Kapolei Hale has environmental services, facilities management, and other agencies, parks is all throughout there. The Fosse Municipal Building is that big gray building that stands kind of at the corner of the city campus. Many agencies are located in that one building, and so what we've tried to do is pick locations where there's a lot of foot traffic of city officers and employees. Encourage them to stop by. Kirsten has developed a game, a can or no can game, where they can play and win a prize. You know,
They
so
can win a plant.
Jan plans herself and then gives them away.
So it's just a fun way to kind of get to know, and it is a really great time to sort of liaise with all of the office's employees, because many times folks who have asked questions will come over and say, oh, hey, is so-and-so on the table? Because they want to meet them face to face, right? They've only either seen them via email and their name or heard them on the phone, but they actually want to name it, put a name to a face. So it's a good opportunity to do that.
And that is all the updates I have, so
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
I have one more question.
Yes.
So how far does the ethics training reach? Does it reach HPD and fire?
Yes, it reaches
EMS?
there's a mandatory all employee biennial training, and all city employees are required to do that. So the tricky thing has been that half of the city staff reports to a computer at their desk. The other half are blue collar workers. And so those departments have a more difficult time scheduling training, because they have to pull them off of their shifts or pull them in from the base yards or out of their trucks. You know, if you think of operations like environmental services or board of water supply, many of their staff are out in the field on a daily basis. The lifeguards, emergency services workers, fire, many of them are deployed in the community. So training can be a little tricky for some of those operations. So the 2 years is to give them time to be able to pull folks off of shift work, and not disrupt services that are provided to the public.
Do we get a lot of grumbling? You hear a lot of grumbling about our requirements and training. I mean,
No, actually, I think we've gotten a lot of positive feedback on
Yeah.
our.
that's good. That actually is good.
We've tried to make it lighter and fun, and, you know, a little humor works. You know,
Does work.
they do say that humor makes a difference, and that, you know, the stage, what is it, the sage on the stage approach is very passé. It has to be quicker, a little easier to digest.
Fine.
Yes, and we have a changing demographic as well, right? We've got younger folks, newer city employees coming in the door that have different learning styles than some of the other city employees. So we have to try and do a one size fits all. It's not an easy task, but I think our training specialist has really stepped up to the plate to try and address that.
Before we go on to COGO, I believe that some commissioners should be acquainted, but new commissioners should be acquainted with the newsletter that Kristen puts out. And it also does an outreach. If you want to explain, just describe that newsletter that you've
Oh.
done in the past.
Yeah, so about every month, we try to release a newsletter, and that topic can range from any of our city ethics laws. I think the most fun one was a detective story we did about just different city laws. And we try to always keep it fun and to a certain theme. And the most recent one was about spring cleaning and like a checklist to refresh your ethics knowledge. We try to also keep it on theme with the season. So usually we have the Honolulu City Lights. People are preparing for that around August. So we do a lot of fundraising newsletters then. And then once we kind of get further into the holidays, we do a lot of gift newsletters. And then for the outreach tables, we try to go at least once every quarter.
We're still doing Elf on the Shelf.
Around the holidays.
Yeah,
Yes.
the holiday.
Elf on the Shelf.
It's been
comes back.
semi-retired.
During the rest of the year. We usually bring him up for a cameo appearance someplace.
It
Are the
just
news
covers
on the
something.
website though?
Yes.
Yeah, you could actually, they're kind of fun. They might
Oh,
be
I
worth
have
one.
subscribed to it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
So I get it.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah, we've done word searches and we haven't yet figured out how to do a Sudoku, but we've done some word searches and crossword puzzles. March every year is National Ethics Awareness Month. And so on those months, we try to have a game or something to engage folks in, trying to learn some of their standards of conduct for the city. It is a fun way to do some outreach. We're hoping that in the future, I know one of the training specialist projects is to do kind of short topic, maybe 1-2 minute videos. So it'll just pop up, watch it quickly, just a reminder, conflicts of interest or a gift, something like that. We're told from a national and international perspective that the 1 or 2 minute shorts are really very impactful for officers and employees. Some of the more multinational companies are using that approach to further engage their employees with these kinds of issues. The lighter, the better. It seems that short is easy on the busy person's day. So try and keep all of that in mind.
Can I also add something? So, something I recently learned was that, although the State Ethics Commission has it, the other counties don't have this. And it doesn't go so much to outreach as it does to accessibility. And the outreach encourages people to use our accessibility in terms of that, the inquiries we were talking about, that's the attorney of the day. The other counties don't have it. They don't have the staff. So it's with the wisdom of some of the current commissioners and some of the former commissioners and administration to expand the staff and allow for this. Because what happens in other ethics commissions in other counties is there's no staff. There's just, part-time yeah. And so someone has a question to ask, oh, can I do this program or whatever from whatever agency we want to do this? And the program's going to happen in 30 days or 2 weeks. Can we do it? Well, the commission itself has to decide because it hasn't been delegated or there's not enough staff. So you will not get an answer because the board meets every 2 months. And by that time it's expired. So this also helps prevent the need, this focus on, proactive, reaching out and advice helps take down the enforcement required on the front end as well.
Mike Lilly's changing that on Maui.
Yeah.
And he was a very strong commissioner here for many years.
And so this is the only county that has it currently.
So to follow up on that, I know that the Board of Ethics on Maui is currently hiring an executive director. On the side, I know Commissioner or Board Member Lilly has asked that, we play a role in bringing that person along. And so we've extended a kind of an invitation to come and sit with us. Then if that's all on outreach and education, we'll go to slide 13, which has to do with COGL. That's the Conference on Governmental Ethics Laws. It's a national or international organization that has several topics, not only ethics, but also campaign finance, freedom of information, big topics, elections. They have what are called COGL Connects. They're virtual connects that go for about an hour. They put out a variety of different topics. You'll see these topics listed for the next few months on both slides, 13 and 14. We are a member, and by virtue of that membership, all of our commissioners and staff are able to attend these COGL Connects. If there's a topic that's interesting to you, please let Leland know and he can assist you with registering for the area. I don't know whether, I know Commissioner Adler, you had expressed interest.
I was really interested in ranked choice voting and I missed it.
Well, I understand that they are archived.
Yeah.
I believe some of them are, not all of them, but some of them are archived.
Certain ones are.
Yeah, so if you do miss something, there's a possibility that you could go back and watch the recording of it. But again, there's a number of these things coming up, so if there's anything that's interesting to you, then please, let me know.
Can I get a link to that? Can you?
We can check it.
Yeah, we can look to see if it's available online. I just know that when I went to look, some of them are recorded, but not all, so we'll
Yeah.
see if it
That
is, so we can send you a link.
So you would have to attend these in real time?
They are scheduled, I think it's
Usually
usually at 9 o'clock.
9 a.m.
our
our time, 3 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah,
Like that.
Yeah, and then some of them, like we said, are recorded, but not all.
There's two coming up apparently, with Epic Roundtable.
Yes.
Am I right, or is that?
No,
That was yesterday.
Oh, yes, okay. Then one left. No, what, July 7th, 15th, case against
July 15th.
Michael Madigan.
So are there little summaries for each of these? I mean, details about what?
Right, when they're announced, we receive emails about them, and typically those are forwarded out to commissioners for their information. And then again, if you would like to attend one of them, then please contact Leland, and he can assist you with registration. There's usually a little description of each of the topics. Sometimes it's a discussion among the various jurisdictions. Other times it's more of a presentation from, selected speakers from different jurisdictions. They can also break out into small group discussion rooms, in which case then everybody can kind of get to know each other and, talk about whatever the topic is that's being presented.
I have not seen reports necessarily from after like post-COVID or post-COVID connect. I've not seen like a final report.
Yeah.
Thank you. With that, we don't have an executive session. Okay. We will have one at the next meeting on July 20th. But before we recess, does any commissioner have any questions about the staff work reports or anything contained in any material?
Yeah, we recognize that it's all new for both Commissioners Martell and Fukunaga, so I think we tried to provide a little bit more.
So, for 10 years, I gave the ethics course to the Paralegal Association.
Oh,
But that was specific to paralegal ethics. And now, I'm on this joint committee with Judiciary on Artificial Intelligence. And many of the leading universities now, for artificial intelligence, computer science, neuroscience courses, are embedding an ethics section into the course. So you no longer have a separate ethics course. Like if you're taking neuroscience 101, there's an ethics
good, that's
component to it. Stanford is the one that really pioneered this.
Do we use AI for anything?
We've played with it with various, we haven't actually used it yet. We thought that we could use it for, our advisory opinions. We've always wanted to have kind of like a compendium, little summaries of each one of them. We've tried putting them in and seeing what kind of summary comes out. It would still require review and edit, but it's a way to get something done fairly good, because there's hundreds and hundreds of those advisory opinions.
That's a good one.
So the paralegal program, was it the one at Kapiolani?
It was the head of the paralegal program, and there were two of us
I said.
giving a lecture each year, to the White Paralegal Association. It had more to do with the scope of a paralegal's authority
Mhm.
and who supervises the paralegal. And what task can be given to a paralegal without committing malpractice.
Yeah, one of our legal clerks, Allison Wong, came out of the Kapiolani Community College paralegal program, and so Susan Jarofsky was her professor. Thank you for that information. We may be picking your brain later on,
Well,
other ways that we might be able to utilize it for our operations.
So to me, the big deal now is to embed the actual ethics component in computer science, artificial intelligence courses, and neuroscience. So that's why I asked that earlier question about whether it's tailored to each commission. Because the courses are now being cross-listed. You have like computer science and at Stanford, they have what's called the Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence Institute. And it's often cross-listed, so you have everything cross-listed, education, social sciences, political science, computer science. Almost every hard science course now is cross-listed. And this is true at MIT and also Harvard has started it too. So rather than have a completely separate course, they tailor it to the issues of like artificial intelligence. And it's co-taught.
Human-centered means, human-centered AI, I don't know what that means, anyway, we can talk about it.
Yeah, I don't-
I have no idea what that is.
they started it at Stanford in 2018.
Human-centered as opposed to.
Machine centered.
Yeah.
Did we make mention that we're going to table the executive session?
We're
Yeah.
gonna go to that right now. Oh, okay. Before we move to table that, are there any members of the public out there who would like to address any issue on the agenda? Or I've not seen any written testimony, but this is your opportunity. Okay, with there being none, I'm gonna move to table, not move, but I'm gonna alert the commissioners that we are tabling the executive session and rescheduling that for the July 23 meeting.
You need a motion. You don't need a
No, I
motion.
don't think so.
No, not for table second. We need a motion to go into it, but not to table something. Okay, with that, we do have the next meeting, which will be an executive session again. And there's nothing further. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So,
Second.
Thank you. Been moved and seconded. Is there any opposition to adjourning? And going back to doing the real work?
It's all real.
Okay,
human-centered real work.
have no opposition.
Madam Mayor?
The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much. Thank you for your reports and thank you for.
This will be the shortest meeting on record.
I think so.
Yeah.